Hi, I'm Barbara Rimkunis, and this is your Exeter History Minute. Exeter's streets weren't laid out in any organized fashion. Like most New England towns, they were a combination of existing native trails and newly created pathways from one home to another. According to Exeter historian Charles Bell, the streets didn't have official names until 1799. He wrote the streets of the town for the first time received authoritative names recommended by a committee of citizens and adopted by the town. These authoritative names appear on the first accurate map of Exeter drawn up in 1802 by Phineas Merrill. Looking at this map today is a confusing mishmash of names that are not used anymore. Water Street, which today stretches from Great Bridge to the railroad overpass, had 4 different parts: Mill Street, Water Street, Fish Street, and River Street. Main Street had 2 parts, Main and Middle Street. Front Street was called Court Street. Tan Lane was Academy Street. Green Street was Carpenter's Lane. Park Street was both Lane's End and Back Street. And Cass Street was called Cross Street. All this in just the center of town. However, just getting standardized names on the map was at least creating order out of chaos. In 1840, the selectmen tidied up the names a bit. Water Street unified all its parts into one long street. The courthouse had been moved, so the old Court Street became Front Street, and a new Court Street was laid out. Interestingly, the courthouse only stood on the new Court Street for under a decade. The building burned, and a new courthouse was built back on Front Street. Residents of the second Court Street resisted allowing it to be renamed, so it's been Court Street without a courthouse ever since, as you'll see. The 1845 map shows a more recognizable downtown. Names were used to give directions to traveler. Thus, roads often have names describing where they go. Hampton Road in Exeter leads to Hampton, just as Brentwood Road leads to Brentwood and Kingston Road goes to Kingston. If you want to find an Exeter Road, you need to be in another town. This might be a New England quirk because it baffles visitors today. New roads were commonly called New Road until a suitable name was found, and hats off to all the towns that still have a new road on their maps. The new road laid out to the B&M Railroad Depot in 1860 became Lincoln Street after President Lincoln's assassination. This led to a spate of dead president names: Lincoln Street, McKinley Street, Garfield Street, and Tiny Garfield Court. Hobart Street was named at the turn of the century for the recently deceased vice president, Garrett Hobart. I mean, who remembers him? Developers chose the names for their own streets, often naming them for themselves. Gill Street and Elliott Street are 2 such places. Some names were used, but never appear on maps. Older deeds in town refer to the Neck Road and the Neck when laying out land on Linden Street. There's no Neck Road. When the road crossing Ashbrook was laid out, early in the 20th century, it was upgraded to Ashbrook for delicacy's sake. Locals insisted on calling it Asbrook Road, much to the chagrin of the Reverend C.V. Tenney, who purchased a house there. In 1880, as the town was celebrating its 250th anniversary, there was again a movement to rename the streets. A committee was created led by Charles Bell. In his opinion, the streets should be named for the town fathers, the wealthy white men who gave a small village a national fame. The suggestion was to change the major downtown roads to commemorate John Wheelwright, John Phillips, Nicholas Gilman, Thomas Wilson, Enoch Poor, and the Folsom, Audlin, Levitt, Dudley, Hilton, and Thing families. Townspeople had no objections to most of the names, but they didn't want the chaos that would occur if existing streets had their names changed. This complaint came before one had to worry about the 911 dispatching system, home mail delivery, or your mail-order cat food. The lively meeting brought out so many people it had to move from the selectman's office to the town hall. There, the committee was met with angry citizens brandishing not pitchforks, but petitions. Seems no one on Center Street wanted to live on Poor Street, no matter how much they respected Enoch Poor. The Court Street crowd was there, objecting to becoming Gilman Street. Only 2 of the proposed changes were approved. Cross Street was renamed Cass Street in honor of Lewis Cass, and Katie's Lane, which was named for Catherine Merrill, a long deceased black woman who had lived there and left a bequest to the town, became Lane's End, and today it's part of Park Street. As the town grows, new streets are laid out, but now there are rules regulating naming. Most of the regulations try to avoid confusion with already existing names. Recently, the names were tidied up again to avoid this kind of confusion. People on Pine Road had to decide on a new name to avoid confusion with Pine Street, and now the street is named Jubal Martin Road. It's a hassle for residents to notify everyone of new addresses. Still, if one needs the fire department to arrive at the right place, it would be nice having them rushing to the right part of town. For more Exeter history, check our website at www.exeterhistory.org.